Hello, today we'll be talking about sensorial work in Montessori. What is sensorial work? Sensorial comes from the word sense or senses, as there are no new experiences for the child to take from the sensorial work. The child is able to concentrate on the refinement of all his senses from visual to stereognostic. Now, what is the purpose of sensorial work? The purpose and aim of sensorial work is for the child to acquire clear, conscious information and to be able to make classifications in his environment. Montessori believed that sensorial experiences began at birth. And as we all know, as mothers especially, when children are first given birth to, within the first few hours of coming to the world, they begin to move their eyes around to look for their mother. They begin to develop visual sense because they've been able to identify with that face they are seeing constantly of their mother because they suckle on her and she carries them every time. The second sense they develop is the auditory sense. They identify with the voice of the closest person to them and they begin to follow the direction of the voice each time they hear it. Through the senses, the child studies his environment. Through this study, the child then begins to understand his environment. The child, to Montessori, is a sensorial explorer. We are all sensorial explorers as humans because it is with the power of our senses that we are able to navigate our world and to be able to interpret our environment to our own understanding. Through work with the sensorial materials, the child is given the keys to classify the things around him, which leads to the child making his own experiences in his environment. Through this classification, the child is also offered the first step in organizing his intelligence, which then leads to his adapting of his environment. Exercise game. Sensorial exercises were designed by Montessori to cover every quality that can be perceived by the senses, such as size, shape, composition, texture, loudness or softness, matching, width, temperature, and more. Because these exercises cover such a wide range of senses, Montessori categorized these exercises into 8 different groups, namely visual, tactile, baric, thermic, auditory, olfactory, gustatory, and stereognostic. In the visual sense exercises, the child learns how to visually discriminate differences between similar objects and differing objects. In the tactile sense exercises, the child learns through its sense of touch. Although the sense of touch is spread throughout the surface of the body, the exercises given to the child should be limited to the tips of the fingers, and particularly to those of the right hand. This allows the child to really focus on what he is feeling because all the tips of our fingers has connections with our brains. So when the child does exercises related to sense of touch with the tips of the fingers through a concentration of a small part of his body, he is able to understand what he is feeling. In the baric sense exercises, the child learns to feel the difference of pressure or weight of different objects. This sense is heightened through the use of a blindfold or of closing the eyes. We ask the child, what do you feel? Can you feel wood? Can you feel plastic? And so many other things we can make the child to feel. In the thermic sense exercises, the child wants to refine his sense of temperature. Is it cold or is it hot? temperature. Now, the child, in the auditory sense exercise, the child discriminates between different sounds. In doing these different exercises, the child will refine and make himself or herself more sensitive to the sounds in his environment. In the olfactory and gustatory exercise sense, the child is given a key to his smelling and tasting. Smelling and tasting. Taco. Mental. Perfume. These are three different odors or smells that we can also use to make the child identify and differentiate the similarities and differences in what he or she is smelling. The child does work to distinguish the smell from one from another. The same thing goes with taste: sweet, sugary, sour, pepperish. He or she can then take these senses and apply them to other smells or tastes in his environment. In the stereognostic sense exercise, the child learns to feel objects and make recognitions based on what he feels. Is it hard, or is it soft, or is it fluffy? When the hand and arm are moved about an object, an impression of movement is added to that touch, such as an impression attributed to a special sixth sense, which is called the muscular sense, and which permits many impressions to be stored in the muscular memory, which recalls movements that have been made. When we run, we develop muscular sense, because as we are running, if you are feeling pain in any of your muscles, you are remembering, you are feeling it somewhere. You are feeling uncomfortable somewhere where you move, there is a muscular sense. Now, the suggested book for this topic is The Discovery of the Child by Maria Montessori. The next one is The Designed Material. Montessori materials for the sensorial work came from our own observations and from ideas and materials from the French doctors named Itard and Sigal. Unlike the material used for practical life, the material has either never been seen or never been used by the child in his everyday life. With this said, however, the child will receive no new experience through the use of the material. This was purposefully thought through, or in order to give the child what he knows, but might not yet realize, and to then refine his knowledge. In order to do this, the material is presented in a specific way or in a specific pattern. In a specific way or in a specific pattern. The child learns to match the similar things. Then he is shown how to grade the material based on its quality, and then he receives the language related to his work. For example, when we talk about the painter, we talk about the color, which is pink. We talk about the shape, which is a star. Those are languages we are developing from the child using this material. We also talk about their sizes and their dimension. The shape, is it square, is it rectangle? The same thing goes with the broad brown stairs. The shape and the arrangement. What does it teach the child? After the initial feeling of the weight, the size, and the shape, it's a rectangle. Now, a serial arrangement of these rectangles teaches the child. Now, This was purposefully thought through in order to give the child what he knows or might not yet, might not yet realize, and to then refine his knowledge. In order to do this, the material is presented in a specific way or in a specific pattern. For example, the blood brown text is presented in a serial way to look like a staircase. But the child might not have realized that until there is this specific arrangement. And then after the arrangement, the child is taught to put his fingers on each stair as if he is climbing a stairway. And then the child can then realize that this looks like a staircase. We can also use the smallest part of the painter to use as a climber while we try to help the child to interpret the new sense he is acquiring by the arrangement of this material. The language development is also going to be on the color of the material, the shape of the material, the weight of the material, the size of the material, what the material looks like, and so many other languages that we'll be developing in the course of the presentation. The child learns to match similar things, then he is shown how to grade the material based on its quality or sizes, and then he receives the language related to his work. In presenting the material to the child in this way, it allows him to fully understand the concept of his or her work. All of the material isolates the one quality that is to be worked with by the child. This allows the child to focus on that one quality. All of the materials have what is called the control of error. That means, for example, if the child is asked to arrange the picture, the normal order should be according to the sizes. But because the individual arranging it is a child, is not an expert in the material, it is possible for you to see something like this. The child will easily recognize that this is heavier than this and this should come down. That is what we mean by the control of error. So the materials themselves, all Montessori materials have control of errors that will show children that they are not arranging it or they are not following the proper order of arrangement. All of these materials is aesthetically pleasing, such as with the practical life materials. This attracts the child's attention to the objects and allows the child to manipulate the materials with ease. All of the materials must be complete. For example, the brown stairs is 10 in number. The painter is 10 in number. There are a lot of Montessori materials that comes in tens. And as we go on in this training, you will identify them. All of these materials must be complete. This allows the child who is working with the material to finish through the entire piece of work without having to stop and find a missing piece. All of the material is limited. The first use of the term limited refers to the fact that there is only one of each material in the environment. So in a class, you will only find one set of the brown text, one set of the painter, a complete set of the touchboard, or set of the touchboard from 1 to 3, a complete set of the stereognotic bottles. Those are the sets the child will find in the classroom. So there won't be a duplication of the materials in different angles. So the attention of the child is fixed to where that particular material is, and he or she already identifies them. That is where they are every day, because order is one of the key things that must be taken care of in the Montessori classroom. Now, the first use of the term limited refers to the fact that there is only one of each material in the environment. This calls for other students to build on their patience. Because if a child is engaged with a material, another child should get engaged with another material, so that the child who is initially engaged with the material will satisfy his investigation and his routine with the material before he leaves it and gives it over to another child. The second use of the word limited is a reference to the idea that not all of one quality or piece of information is given to the child. This child is not given every color in the world, but only a select few. This gives the child the keys to the information, so it piques his curiosity and leads him to learn more out of his own interest. Most importantly, all of the material could be called materialized abstractions. This means that through Montessori sensorial materials, abstract concepts are made into concrete materials. Montessori saw the importance of the manipulation of objects to aid the child in better understanding his environment. Through the child's work with sensorial materials, the child is helped to make abstractions. He is helped in making distinctions in his environment. As we go further in this training, we will be engaging you with some sensorial materials. I have some of them here with me. Example is the printer, the blood brown space, the touch board, the color tablets, for the purpose of this video, these are the few I have here for now. But we also have materials such as the cylinder blocks, we have the red rods, we have the color tablets, we have the geometric cabinet, we have the constructive triangles, we have the rectangular triangles, we have the blue rectangular box, we have the triangle box, we have the large hexagonal box, we have the small hexagonal box, we have sensorial decanomials, we have the Nobles cylinder, the binomial cube, the trinomial cube, the leaf cabinets, we have the tactile sense, we have sensitizing activity sensitizing fingertips, we have touch boards, we have barrique sets, and under barrique sense we have barrique tablets, thermic sense, thermic bottles, thermic tablets. For the auditory sense, we have the sound boxes. We have the sound boxes, we have the bells, we have the for the olfactory sense, we have the smell jars, which I smell all the time. We have for the gustatory sense, we have the taste bottles. For the stereognostic sense, we have the geometric solids, sorting trays, we have the mystery bag, we have the sandpaper globe, we have the painted globe, we have the puzzle maps of the world, and we have the continents and the countries. Thank you.